Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in today on a great viewer question. And that is really, how do you retract from the crazy making, the engineered chaos, the emotional volatility and lability that is created in a relationship with someone who is heavily narcissistic, malignant, or pathological, or even into the sociopathic or psychopathic spectrum, where basically they have really created an enigma, a puzzle, a sort of realigning of energies and momentum and rhythm within you, which has caused you to stop in your tracks, which has caused you to be receptive to a vast amount of criticism, a vast amount of condemnation, creating self-doubt, low self-esteem, and then obviously then low energy and lack of confidence. And how do you retract from the crazy making? It is to understand that the narcissist, because of their pathological sense of self-importance, it's the way that they perceive themselves in the world that causes them to treat people, situations, and events, circumstances, and communication in the way that they do. And then with a lack of empathy, they really aren't factoring in other people's viewpoints, angles, needs, consideration of that when they are in their mindset. So it's just like when we look at the hormonal or physiological aspect, when we look at someone who is really, psychopathic, there's this high testosterone, there's this drive and aggression and a lack really of the neurons, the mirror neurons that we see light up in the brain scans with normal healthy individuals. In other words, there's mirror neurons. This is a physiological place within the brain, and there's slowed inactivity in these brain centers when these people communicate. And because of this, there is a term called crazymaking or gaslighting, which involves a lot of chaos and a lot of rearranging of your experience, your perception, what you are taking in, what you are feeling, what you are sensing, and your own sensibility, your own senses then are overridden with this person's energy. Their energy is their emotion, their viewpoint basically felt and experienced by you. Crazy making can involve, high volume. So people who yell a lot, people with large body mass, people who will not give you a chance, in other words, edgewise, word-wise, they just enter into a conversation, a relationship, very headstrong, with a heavy hand, meaning sort of judgmental, and then factoring in and setting up in the beginning of the relationship a love bombing and a power play, a hierarchy, where they are older than, wiser than, bigger than. There's always a sort of comparison component when you really look at the troubled relationships. There's always a comparison. This is what a man does. This is what a woman does. This is what someone with my religious, this is what someone with this religious. There's a battle of the wills. And this creates crazy making. In other words, your free will, which is your own ability to decide and choose and pay attention to what is best for you, your best version of yourself, which then is incorporated into your authenticity, begins to minimized, shut down, and diminished. In other words, sort of, cast out of the conversation, cast out of the picture, out of your mind's eye. This is really where the diminishing begins, because all of a sudden in the love bombing stage, this person may care for you, they may give you gifts, they may, say sweet nothings, you're the most handsome man, you're the most beautiful woman, you deserve this, let me get the door, let me get the dinner, let me get the meal, let me get the Uber. You know, they're all about, you know, laying it out. Like, you know, here, take this. They might, you know, share their Coke, whatever it is. There was something in the beginning of the relationship that was like the spark of inspiration or joy, or this is the one, or you eventually felt a huge, vast need within you, like an answered prayer that got you set up, where basically it allowed the crazy making to take place. In other words, it could be, you know, circumstances that you were born in, so you didn't have a chance. If the person was 10 years older than you and gave you a daily beating, or if this was your parent and, you know, they were scolding you before you ate your meal, you were then eating your meal with, you know, your head hung low, you know, your body energy down, depressed, feeling the crazy making. So the crazy making can ensue as a power play. But usually there's something in the love bombing where, or if you're born into this, basically this person is quote unquote above you, more important, more significant, more talented. And people who are narcissistic or covert narcissistic or psychopathic will hit the ball out of the park right in the beginning. In other words, it's a grand slam with them right away. You know, there's something gallivanting, you know, this is your savior, this is your, you know, knight in shining armor, whatever it is, there seems to be something particularly attractive and addictive with this individual. And it's one thing to be in love and to want to be with this person, but it's another thing to be in a relationship with a person where you feel that, but you are, you know, discredited, criticized, judged, and condemned while the relationship is growing and proliferating and moving forward. So, if you're then, you know, in the crazy making, then you begin to have to sort of shut your own free will down, and you cannot retract because suddenly their will is overpowering your will. You become helpless, defenseless, and vulnerable to their overpowering personality. Just the same way that, you know, a spice might overpower a dish, and you're like, that has way too much salt. Like, I can't even taste, you know, the noodles. Like, all I taste is salt. Or if food is too spicy, all I taste is the peppers. You know, or if something is not the right temperature, you know, it's not right. You need to fix it. Well, it's sort of this way, I feel, you know, in a taste of relationship or an experience with these individuals. There's this overpowering, which can be pleasantly overpowering, you know, like a piece of butter that has a ton of a piece of bread that has like a ton of melted butter, and you're like, oh my God, this has so much butter, you know, but yet it's not good for you. So the mind begins to justify reasons why one should maintain the relationship. There's a valuation that takes place, a sacrificing, a value or a belief at the foundation, which causes you to remain in the crazy making state, either by proxy, if this person was, you know, the one to make you, you know, give you your home, your shelter, your food, or whether this was, you know, a colleague or someone that you fell in love with because of all the needs that they, you know, you felt that you really had great, you know, chemistry together. So the crazy making is really when they begin to confuse and disrupt your value system and what I really feel is your natural, authentic, physiological rhythm or movement. So the free will, you know, just is very important to practice and exercise. When we're deprived of that free will, which means the ability to think creatively, constructively, without fear of criticism, without fear of having retaliation, you know, and being diminished, you know, that is your free will alive. And that is what ignites the passion, the purpose, you know, how you feel happy, safe, comfortable. Life is fulfilling when that passion is ignited. That spark of joy is in your life. And one spark of joy leads to another. And that, in my viewpoint, it creates a rhythm, an experience you're experiencing something that is profound, mysterious, makes you smile. You can dance, you can jump for joy. Musicians, like when they improvise on a jazz beat, that is their free creative will. You are aligned with the creator. That is the source. It's an alignment with what you might call the Holy Spirit, or, Jesus Christ, the healer of all wounds, who helps you to live a healed life. And we're not making this about religion. We're understanding how to retract from the crazy making. So when we talk about really the tools of healing, I want you to understand the cause which has created the crazy making effect. Because once you understand the cause in the body-mind connection that was set up, you'll then be able to understand what is the contrast to that, or the opposite, the polarity of that. So it's to understand that experience in and of themselves have polarity, between good and bad, warm and cold, pleasant and unpleasant. So there's this spectrum. So when we look at the polarity of dealing with someone who has created a lot of crazy making, oftentimes there's a pathology because of the amount of lying and sort of deprivation of another's ability to think, feel, and express. There's a shutting down of other people. There's a heavy-handedness with their words. Their words seem to carry more weight than yours, and the crazy making then is when your opinions, your input is flawed. Something about you is inherently wrong. And this is then at the hands and mercy of this individual. However, to maintain is to end up tolerating and not being able to attune to that free will, that sort of, I have for myself. I can for myself. I can fend for myself here. I can walk away here. So there's certain sort of free will moments that have been sort of a trigger point where people have not been able to initiate this and act on it and allow that connection within to their authenticity and really just being, the best you can be, living on your interests, your talents, your values, all that makes you a well-rounded human being. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, having all of your needs met and feeling like you've got that momentum and what I call the rhythm of your free will. Because if you look at dysfunctional relationships or families, in my viewpoint, there's always sort of a percussiveness that has been damaging. The body receives this crazy making basically where your values are told are wrong, or something about you is inherently flawed, and then this person presides over you. So your own free will, rather than being in the flow, begins to be blocked, shut down, like a wall, like a barrier. So then you have to navigate this with like an emotional barrier where there's like, where you are kind of like down, in like what you might call a basement mentality, where you can't really see the light of day. Everything seems dark, dingy, like a dungeon, very sort of, down, really kind of underneath, not fit for life, unpresentable. This is really the core of post-traumatic stress syndrome, where everything is just, their nerves are just shattered and firing over. Their free will can't be strong enough to overcome that sort of fear and trepidation and judgment that, you don't have the right to life. It really is that at that survival mode where the crazy making then causes you to live only on a survival basis. Crazy making is when someone, just sort of makes you doubt your reality. Your reality, your perspective just going about your day to day, being able to have focus, being able to have concentration, being able to feel safe, being able to, know what boundaries are and say no when you mean no, and say, listen to me when you're being shut down, so that you have the ability to healthily confront and draw the line, to walk away when someone is using crazy making as a way to get you entrapped. And, there was a certain coldness and cruelty to that. And it is to also understand that people who are narcissistic, people who are malignant and pathological in this respect, this is how they feel good and energized themselves. So it's very easy, in a city, if someone has a building and someone builds a taller building and blocks their view, it's, if you could, take that building out, then you'd be the tallest again. You can all of a sudden, elevate your status by knocking down others. So it's kind of like the same way that a narcissist is. If they're feeling insecure, then, and they need to be in control, they need the one with the attention. It's all about eyes, attention. That's what they feed off. They need a lot of attention. Oftentimes, they're not very good at being alone or being by themselves. The covert narcissist, they will retreat by themselves oftentimes and not be bothered with anybody or other things. It's a covert way of manipulation. They just withhold attention. So because there's no eye contact, you have to go hunting them down to, have eye contact. People get starved for eye contact, for human contact, for human relationships. You can be deprived of having eye contact with people. The psychopath will use that to dominate and gaslight and brainwash you, as well as the crazy making. So the crazy making is really an attempt for them to get more attention. And just like we talk about the word, pay attention. There is value when you are giving someone attention. So when you give somebody eye contact, you're paying attention. There's a value in what you're giving them, in what you're listening. I am listening to you. I am paying attention. It's a value exchange. However, the narcissist oftentimes does not want to give attention to others because this makes them feel insecure, it makes them feel less than. It sends them down into the dark abyss where they're insecure. The narcissist is very insecure, very contrary to the feeling or, to the mask that you might see in the relationship or, social media. A lot of the young people today, really struggling with having self-esteem and then confidence because all their life has to be on Facebook and managing and the pictures and the dances, etc. And, who's popular or what have you. So there's that whole play and dynamic. And so the crazy making then ensues, and you basically feel like no matter what you do, you're at your wit's end. So you begin to kind of run on vapors. Your free will, your authenticity is not allowed to shine at all. It's just like, it is perceived as a threat. And so if they can squash another, if they can make you sort of delirious and go and do things for them, or, listen only to what they want to listen to, the music or the play or the theater, and you're never really sort of involved. There isn't this exchange. The relationship then is all about them and you laughing at their jokes or things of that nature. So it's a great question because you have to retract. You have to be able to, bring it in within yourself and really begin to then look upon the bigger world. The narcissist is what the narcissist is. The psychopath is what they are. Okay, they will thrive on this dominion, and they are very uncomfortable with equality. You know, if anything, there's always sort of a falseness, you know, a facade that has to be maintained by these individuals. And so, you know, there's always this sort of status in like, are you in or are you out? And you have to then constantly jockey for, you know, proving that you are still worthy of the relationship. You know, you're always sort of put to the test when this crazy making is. And then, of course, you know, people want to redeem themselves to get back to that love bombing or whatever it is. It was the initial hook, line, and sinker, which is really important for you to give up, is that hook in the beginning in order to retract from the crazy making. So it's important to understand what, you know, just like in a fishing line, that little hook, what was it that got you more, you know, really latched on? What was it about the relationship? What was it about that individual where you were either hooked on feeling low self-esteem, allowing their judgment to preside over your free will, your own movement, your own momentum, your own, beat to the, walk to the beat of your heart, that sort of thing. In other words, you weren't allowed to listen to your own heart. Your own heart has a rhythm, a beat, a motion. It's working for you night and day. It's circulating the oxygen, all the, helping, fuel all the areas of your body. And your body is a subconscious mind. So if the body becomes sort of stuck and paralyzed, then your emotions, your flow, your own rhythm will be hindered. It will be hampered. It will be shortened. You'll breathe, you won't be able to breathe naturally. You'll have kind of, if you pay attention to the tension that's in your body when you're around them, is it always like you're trying to cater to this person? Or is there a natural give and take where we're in this together and there's this sort of equality or understanding, or your strength, there's a complement, your strengths and my weakness, or, what you're good at and what I'm good at. You're a great cook, I'm a great cleaner. There's this sort of give and take, which is functional. In a relationship with a narcissist, if it stays too long, the crazy making will ensue, because the narcissist is all about, making the rules of the relationship. Things have to be on their terms. Why can't I have my own dinner? Why do we have to split this? Or, why can't I have this? It's that, your free will begins to be hampered. And the crazy making is really where it's kind of like you get ensnared and there is a trap. In other words, you can't quite see how to get out of the trap because of that hook. So the cause, you have to look at within each individual watching, there's going to be a specific time where this individual came into your life, or, where it was all started. And it's important to understand that relationship and then how it made you feel. So if you do like a body scan and kind of see how it made you feel, did it make you clench up, grind your teeth? Do you have to get all sorts of crowns and root canals because you have so much tension? Where are you holding your tension? How are you obstructing your own breathing or your own flow? You're not able to exercise because you don't have self-esteem, low self-confidence. Low self-confidence and low levels of faith are really based on a low self-esteem. Low self-esteem means I'm not good enough. I'm not a value. These are core, we're talking about the core foundations. It's very vast, it's very simple, it's very powerful. And so you do have to retract. In other words, find where that hook is and pull it back and say, okay, I've got, I'm losing, taking it out of the analysis and coming to my senses now. I'm resensitizing myself. The great psychologist Fritz Perls, lose your mind and come to your senses. In other words, the psychopath and the narcissist is very cerebral love. It's always analyzed and calculated. The psychopath, in my mind, they don't really experience love, fondness, and affection. It's really just sort of what they can get. You know, are you a shield to them? Are you a place to live for them? They're very parasitic. And likewise, the narcissist, in my viewpoint, as well. They're the takers of the energy, takers of your attention, takers of your free will. And it's, you can really stay a long time in that devaluing stage. So really, that's where you're sort of treading water and just trying to fight for your life. So you must, to retract, you must look at and understand that first hook that had you stuck, you know, that had you sort of really anchored. In other words, where the role that they had in your life. And seeing then how your free will was not appreciated. It was not respected. You were not allowed to sort of have your own life. Then the boundary violation, you know, what's yours is mine. Perhaps you had really strong values, you know, honor thy mother, honor thy father, you know, honor thy husband, honor thy wife. So there was a lot of values that then were mixed into this that caused you then to maintain and stay in survival in the crazy making. So you have to look kind of at that original hook. And, you know, and you can kind of fall in love back within, you know, your higher power, your higher guidance. You know, begin to love something bigger, wider, and greater. Begin to have devotion to this as well. And find out what in your day, and ask yourself this, what would somebody who loved themselves do? What would somebody who trusts themselves do in this situation? Okay, what would someone who loved themselves do in this situation? Ask yourself this. What would someone who trusts themselves do? Because there's also a lack of self-trust when you're in relationships because of the boundary violation. You know, you really aren't used to living within, you know, a certain comfortable boundary. Like, it's okay to say no. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to defile myself by these people, or take this, or, you know what, this situation, this work situation is not good for me. This neighborhood is not good. I'm out of here. What would somebody who loved themselves do in this situation? I'm getting myself out. You know, I'm getting a ticket and I'm doing this. I am. And then you've got the motion, you've got the momentum. Your body, you know, needs to actually get it, to actually do something, to actually make a choice, make a new decision, and then follow up, you know, getting these tools. We talk about the recovery journal. We talk about the appointment book. We talk about resensitizing yourself, the affirmations, all these different things which combine to get you to retract that hook and being able to stop, you know, having that tug and that tension in your life, and be liberated. And be liberated then to be filled up with the goodness and the joy and that spark of inspiration and joy that is meant in your heart, but that you have not been able to receive it because you're surrounded with so much crazy making, so much chaos. So you need to make order and, you know, positive, orderly direction thinking out of it. But even more, it's to have really that spark of inspiration. I can do this. Yes. You know, getting that sort of, you know, and then following up, you know, no matter where you're at in your journey, you're going to have to try and experiment with a lot of different things. But, you know, you might need to have flashcards. I have a wonderful life. Be happy. Put that on your refrigerator. I have a wonderful life. Be happy. I have gratitude for everything that I have. And you're looking then at yourself and your free will and your authenticity. You're looking at that. You're not focused on others. You're focused then on what brings you that happiness and that health and vitality. You know, are you eating properly? You know, are you going with days and days without eating properly, or you're drinking too much pop, look at your consuming, look at what you're consuming. Begin to get free will over this. Begin to, use some choices. Clear out your cabinets with all the junk food. Make space for something new, and then find something new to put in its place that makes you feel happy, gives you that, that elicits that free will, where then you're then getting that momentum and that rhythm back, and begin to pay attention to that rhythm. When you get that little spark of joy, begin to understand, what is it that I really like about that? Begin to develop more of a dialogue within yourself. So you begin to ignite that, and then instead of that hook being outside, you've got that hook within you. You're pulling away from the chaos. You're pulling away from the crazy making, and you're making order and sense. And you've come to your senses, and you're out of the cerebral. You're back in your body and doing what's right. You might find yourself dancing, walking, making, a smoothie, making a hot chocolate, taking a vegan protein bar, whatever it is that makes you feel good. You'll find yourself doing that. Stop the negative orderly direction thinking that makes you down and heavy and weighted with that crazy making. Retract from it, pull back, and just say, enough is enough. It is what it is. Move on and be happy. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out.